I'm Robert Firpo-Cappiello, Editor-in-Chief at Hospitality Technology, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Shetty from ServiceChannel. We're going to be talking restaurant technology, Internet of Things, data, and so much more. Sid, I wanted to welcome you to the conversation and give you a minute to introduce yourself. Tell us, tell me, our hospitality technology and restaurant technology network audiences who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate you having me here. My name is Shetty. I'm the Chief Customer and Business Officer at ServiceChannel. ServiceChannel is a tech platform and marketplace that services multi-site businesses and helps them manage their physical spaces and assets to ensure the best sort of customer experience, ensure that their assets have the right kind of uptime, and ensuring ultimately that the physical spaces represent their brand promise. So excited to be here and have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So MURTEC Executive Summit has brought us together in over several years. I always see you there, and you often join me on stage.
That's right.
And so I guess I wanted to kick it off with sort of an idea of like, I know what MURTEC Executive Summit means to me. I would love to hear your thoughts on what does the event, which brings together senior restaurant technology professionals with solution providers, what does the event mean to you?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. I think when we look at the overall space, right, and the world that we live in, uh, it's a changing world, right? And there's very, very high expectations all around, whether it's the businesses that we all serve, or whether it's the consumer, who's the ultimate boss, if you may, right? If the consumer doesn't walk into the spaces that we build for them, none of us are going to be here, right? And so when you look at that changing environment and the high expectations that exist, they're tied to some very transformative technologies that are existing today. That in the phase and the time that we're in, there's so much of leapfrogging happening in terms of the kinds of technologies available and the expectations that have come off of COVID, right? It's no longer okay for you to have, a leaky ceiling or a stained ceiling tile. Consumers want to walk in to a business where they feel that it's ready for them to be served and it's warm and welcoming and safe. And that means that there's a lot of change and there's a lot of areas that business leaders have to think about. How do they plan for the future? How do they plan for this ever-changing environment? Which means that they have to not only understand like the macroeconomic environment that we're in, but also consumer trends and new technologies that are coming in. And to do that, you have to be among your peers where you can have great discussions and learn from each other, see what kind of technologies are out there, see what new players are in the market, all with the singular purpose of, being the best business you can be, ensuring that your businesses are delivering the best value to your customer, the best spaces for your customer, and are able to grow and preserve your brand, right? And so we've found that at MURTEC Exec Summit, we have the right kind of leader that's very interested in learning, but is also very interested in sharing their own perspectives on what's happening in the market. And so it's a great place where we get to learn and rub shoulders with like-minded leaders, but also have the opportunity to kind of share our ideas on what could help us all adapt in this market to better serve the customer. So that's why we're excited about MURTEC Exec Summit, and we're looking forward to the event this year as well.
Yeah, that's many of the same things I look forward to. I plan the content for the event. At the same time, I enjoy learning myself by exactly what you're talking about, rubbing elbows, asking the right questions, or overhearing something and saying, "Wait,
That's right.
wait, haven't heard that one before." That's so important. Now, thinking about that, what would when you're meeting folks at a conference, what is it you want them to know about Service Channel? The you sometimes have only a few minutes to bond and educate people. What is it that you'd like them to know?
So Robert, if you look at kind of at a very high level what we do, it's you could paint it with a simplistic paintbrush and say we help facility managers, help broken things get fixed faster, right? But that's not exactly what we do. In reality, what we're doing is ensuring that the physical spaces that represent the brand are in the best possible shape to ensure that they are, keeping up with their brand promise and delivering the best sort of customer experience. So when we go and have these conversations, we talk about how, when in this world of high competition, rising prices, challenges with the tech shortage and talent, how do you stand out? Like, how do you ensure that your business, represents, your brand, your physical space represents your brand in the best possible way. And when a consumer is walking down the street and they have choices between all these different businesses and open doors, that they choose yours because yours is the most welcoming, right? And I think that's where ServiceChannel can make a huge difference. We, help 500 or 600 of the most iconic brands in the world manage their physical spaces. We do around 30 million work orders a year. We help them manage $16 billion of facility spend on the platform. We have 70,000 providers in our network that on any given month are turning wrenches and ensuring that all the assets that are in these stores are taken care of to ensure that there's comfort, the safety for the consumer that's dining in your space. And so that's the kind of impact we want to make. We want to have a direct impact to these facilities teams and asset owners, if you may, to ensure that everything they do ties to creating a great customer experience, because that means that it's a returning customer, it's a happy customer, and it'll help the business grow, not only in terms of brand presence and but also from a revenue standpoint, and help the next brand be the most iconic brand in the world, right? So that's essentially what we do, and we go and we meet leaders in conferences like this. That's the kind of underlying message that we have, which is how can we help you empower your teams to do more with less, but also to ensure that you're delivering on your brand promise.
I love that context, how you tie what you do to ultimately to keeping that brand promise, which is, ideally that is what a lot of technology in restaurants is doing. It doesn't have to be visible. It doesn't have to be guest facing. It just needs to be always on and making sure that it's reinforcing that value proposition. That's so
That's
well
right. And
said.
interestingly, right? And interestingly,
Mhm.
Robert, if things are going well in facilities, you don't think about it, right?
Mhm.
No one walks into a space and says, "That was really comfortable," right? You always walk
Mhm.
away, you're uncomfortable, and you think, "That was really warm in there. I didn't like it," right? So if we do all the things right with our partners across these iconic brands, you can be rest assured that that team is in the background doing what has to get done so that we can focus on the consumer to have the best possible experience. So that's the nature of the business.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. I'm thinking, Sid, about how I've mentioned you've joined me on stage to talk at MURTEC Executive Summit and other events as well. And we're frequently talking about data from HT does surveys of restaurant operators and surveys of consumers about their attitudes about technology. And I I'm curious what it is about data that seems to draw you, because we keep meeting like this on stage talking about data, and I kind of see a connection between that and what ServiceChannel does. But I'm eager to hear your thoughts about what does data mean to you through that lens of ServiceChannel's mission.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because, ultimately, companies can say a lot of things, but ultimately what reflects their mindset is the actions that they take, right? And what's interesting is in the survey that you do, you can actually understand what they're doing with their IT budgets and how they're spending their resources. And so it tells you what is happening in the business how are they reacting to their everyday needs? How are they reacting to the shift in consumer expectations? How they are reacting to the macro trends that may exist? And so when they're putting their money and they're allocating resources in different ways to help build their business and make it stronger, it allows us to have an insight into what they're thinking, what they're doing, and essentially be able to aggregate that data and say, here's what's going on in the world of restaurants, right? This is the trend that we are seeing, because ultimately, there's a lot of challenges in our world today, right? There's a tremendous shortage of talent. So a lot of folks don't want to work in restaurants. There's a shortage of talent out there. There's consumer expectations that are skyrocketing. Consumers want to be able to speak to a human being and always see a smile, but at the same time, they want the convenience of a kiosk. At the same time, they find it interesting and novel to be able to speak to an AI agent at a drive-through. They want to have a drive-through where they don't have to wait too long. So there's all of these impacts on not only how businesses think about technology, but also how they think about their physical spaces, their designs, and so on and so forth. And so ultimately, this study helps us kind of see that macro trend and understand better what's going on in different segments of the market, right? Whether it's QSR, full service restaurants and so on. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed kind of not only getting access to it, but being able to talk to other individuals in a panel and share those insights. And in the past few times when we've done it, we've had the audience, be very engaged as well and ask a lot of great questions and have a back and forth dialogue. So I found that to be super energizing, and so I'm looking forward to this next one as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's a lot of the things I enjoy about it as well. HT's guest engagement study. I enjoyed putting it out this year, and looking forward to sharing it with folks. Sid, I'd love to give you the last word here. What are some closing thoughts for the Hospitality Technology and Restaurant Technology Network audience?
Yeah, I would just say that, look, these are very interesting times with a lot of change, but good change. And I think it's one of those transformative years where we're going to look back and say, wow, in those few years, a lot of things changed, and a lot of things that we may have watched in movies is now making its way into the physical spaces that we all kind of love going to, whether it's restaurant or whether it's retail, whether it's physical or digital, or phygital, right? There's a lot of different interactions that consumers are now expecting to have with the businesses that they love. And what I would say that the only way that we can all be really competitive and we can all really ensure that we can maniacally be focused on the consumer or the customer is by listening, learning, having great dialogue, being aware of challenges that you're going to face and being able to prepare for it. Because the only way we can get ahead is to adapt and to learn and to do the things that need to get done to win. And so I would say that that's what I would hope everyone who's listening to this walks away with, which is, these are going to be amazing times. And we all have to keep our eyes and ears open and have great dialogue and engage with people that are out there, and having great conversations across the industry. And let's learn together. Let's win together.
Sid Shetty from ServiceChannel. It's always a pleasure to talk, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.